Imagine a world where a person's worth wasn't measured by their character, but by the caste they were born into. A time when society was deeply divided in the name of religion, when temples and mosques stood as symbols of separation rather than unity, and when rituals often mattered more than compassion. Then, an ordinary weaver stepped forward and spoke words that would echo through history. Reading countless books alone does not make one wise. True wisdom begins with the simple language of love. That voice belonged to Saint Kabir, a poet, philosopher, and spiritual reformer, whose message challenged both religious orthodoxy and social injustice. He questioned blind faith, rejected discrimination, and taught that humanity is greater than any religion. But who was Kabir? How did a humble weaver become one of India's greatest spiritual teachers? And why do his teachings continue to inspire millions, even after 6 centuries? This is the remarkable saint. To understand Kabir, we must first understand the world in which he lived. 15th century India was a land of remarkable cultural diversity, but also deep social divisions. Large parts of northern India were under the rule of the Delhi Sultanate. Society was rigidly structured by caste, and religious rituals often overshadowed the deeper values of spirituality. At the same time, the Bhakti movement and the Sufi tradition were spreading a different message, one centered on devotion, love, and the direct connection between humanity and the divine. It was during this period of change that Kabir emerged, offering a bold new vision of faith and equality. The details of Kabir's birth remain uncertain, and historians continue to debate them. Traditional accounts place his birth around the late 14th or early 15th century. According to one of the most widely known traditions, Kabir was raised in Varanasi by a Muslim weaver couple named Niru and Nima. Growing up in a humble household, he never received a formal education. Yet the lessons he learned from everyday life became the foundation of his extraordinary wisdom. Kabir himself suggested that he had never studied in the conventional way, emphasizing that genuine understanding comes through experience rather than scholarship. One of the most famous stories about Kabir concerns the Hindu saint Ramananda. Tradition says that Kabir longed to become Ramananda's disciple. However, the rigid social customs of the time made such a relationship nearly impossible. According to legend, Kabir lay on the steps leading to the Ganges before dawn. When Ramananda accidentally stepped over him, he instinctively uttered the sacred name Ram. Kabir accepted that single word as his spiritual initiation. Whether historical or symbolic, the story reflects Kabir's belief that sincere devotion is far more important than social status. Kabir believed that God cannot be confined to temples, mosques, or rituals. Instead, he taught that the divine lives within every human being. He rejected discrimination based on caste and insisted that wisdom should be valued above birth. He also criticized empty rituals and blind superstition, urging people to seek truth through self-reflection and compassion. His message was simple, yet revolutionary. Love one another, speak the truth, abandon pride, and recognize humanity as the highest form of religion. Kabir's short poetic verses, known as dohas, remain among the most beloved works of Indian literature. One of his most famous teachings reminds us that before searching for faults in others, we must first examine ourselves. Another compares human life to a garden, teaching that patience is essential because every fruit ripens only in its proper season. These timeless verses continue to guide people toward humility, patience, and inner growth. Traditional accounts suggest that Kabir's outspoken criticism of social and religious practices angered influential leaders. Some stories claim that complaints against him eventually reached Sultan Sikandar Lodi. These narratives often describe dramatic trials and miraculous events. While historians regard many of these stories as legendary rather than historically verified, They reflect Kabir's enduring image as a fearless voice who challenged both authority and social prejudice. According to tradition, Kabir spent his final days in the town of Maghar. At that time, many believed that dying in Varanasi guaranteed spiritual liberation, while dying in Maghar did not. Kabir deliberately chose Maghar to challenge this superstition. A well-known legend tells us that after his death, both Hindu and Muslim followers wished to perform his last rites according to their own traditions. When the cloth covering his body was lifted, they found only flowers. The flowers were divided between the two communities, allowing each to honor him in its own way. Whether literal or symbolic, the story beautifully expresses Kabir's lifelong message that humanity is greater than religious divisions. More than 600 years later, Saint Kabir's voice continues to resonate across generations. His poems are still taught in schools, his songs are still sung across India, and his message of love, equality, humility, and truth remains as relevant today as it was in his own lifetime. Kabir reminds us that faith is not found in outward appearances or rituals. It is found in compassion, honesty, and the way we treat one another. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating stories from history, culture, and civilization. Thank you for watching.